Hi guys, this is Elizabeth from Alexandria's Private Tuition, and as promised, I said that I'd go through language paper two with you, um, question by question, and break it down into episodes so you don't have to watch a ridiculously long video. You can literally just look at the episode that suits you. Before we get started, it's really important as a teacher for me to let you know that you've got this. I believe in you and you're going to achieve well. Okay. So as we know, language paper two, unlike language paper one, you've got two extracts and that can be a bit daunting for some students, but the strategies are the same in terms of reading. Now, before we get into the questions, I think it's really important in this episode to think about how we read and annotate the extract. I'm a firm believer that if you do not understand the extracts that you've read, you're not going to be able to understand the text and the questions. So it's really important that you do that. So, first things first, let's think about what is the paper actually about. So, the paper is all about viewpoints and perspectives. That's literally the title it gives you. So, viewpoints is basically the writer's opinion or attitude towards the topic, what they're thinking about, what they're writing about. And it's often linked to how they view a particular topic. However, perspective, their point of view, is shaped by the writer's background. It could be shaped by their experiences. It could be shaped by context. It could be shaped by the time period and the values. And what that information helps us to do is understand why they have that particular kind of view. So if it's an older text, we kind of understand that, okay, these are points of views that were held back in the day. If it's a modern text and maybe after COVID, we can understand why people might view that particular topic in a particular way because of what they've experienced. So it's really important that we pay attention to that. Like I said, I know both sources. You normally have a modern text, you normally have an older text, and it's really important that we know that in this paper, you're focusing, both papers have a key theme, but they all view that theme in a particular and a different way. So if it's about holiday, one source might enjoy the holiday and see it as a time of relaxation, whereas another text might see it as a time of stress and worry and anxiety. So what they have in common is it's about holiday. However, their perspective on that holiday is two different things. So key things to remember that viewpoint is what the writer is saying, and perspective is why they are saying it. So these are my strategies when reading the extract, and it's just two strategies. After reading the extract, I always encourage my students that I teach to find three adjectives, not from the text, but three adjectives that describe your first impression. So you think about the mood. So how does the text feel? The character? What do we learn about the people involved? And the setting? Where is it happening? And what does it look like? What does it feel like? Again, these adjectives that you're writing down give you clues about the writer's attitude, tone, and intention. What is that essentially allowing you to do is trust your initial instincts when reading the extracts because you know yourself, like you know how you react to things, and sometimes your initial reaction or instinct about a piece of text is not normally incorrect as long as you've read it properly. Step two, identify the focus. As I was saying earlier, both texts have a main focus. So it's about you identifying what the writer is talking most about. What is the topic of conversation? Okay. And then you sum it all up into one sentence about what the extract is about. And you can quickly write that at the top of your extract once you finish reading it. So yeah, those are the strategies. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at two sources that we are going to be using throughout each episode. Um, and basically using the strategies that I've come up with today and show you how you can apply it to the sources that you've got. So our first source is from a modern magazine. It's an article. So it says it's from the digital revolution, a new age of connection. Okay, it was written in 2022. So it's a very modern text. This extract is taken from a modern magazine published in 2022 during a time when digital technology plays a major role in everyday life. Okay, So I'm going to read it for you now. In just a few decades, the rise of smartphones, smart homes, and social media has transformed every corner of our daily lives. We are more connected than ever. Whether you're video calling a loved one across the globe or accessing a library's worth of information in seconds, technology has created a world once reserved for science fiction. Far from isolating us, digital tools have opened doors, allowing collaboration, education, and creativity to thrive like never before. There are critics, of course. Some warn that we are addicted, that we stare more at screens than at each other. But is that not a question of how we use technology rather than the thought of the tools themselves? To ignore the boundless benefits from life-saving medical advancements and global cultural exchange, it is to miss the miracle of progress. So, what key things do we know about this text? We know that this is a modern text. It's written in 2022, a time period which you guys were alive for, thinking about what happened in the 2020, 2021, 2022. Also thinking about smartphones and technology, like thinking about what is the writer's attitude. So the first thing, as I said to you, we think about the three adjectives. So three adjectives I've come up with is this idea of unity, confidence, and growth. Okay, so the text is basically saying that technology unifies us. It brings us together from all parts of the world. I chose confidence because the writer feels as though that they are confident in how technology is improving our lives and the benefits of technology. And then I've also chosen the word growth because it's this idea that it helps us to grow in terms of like getting information and accessing all types of education and communication. So this idea of growth. And then my sentence is this extract celebrates the advance of technology, highlighting how it improves communication. So that is my two strategies. So the first strategy, my three adjectives, and the second strategy, just summing it up into a sentence. So we're going to do the same thing to source B. So source B is a 19th century speech. This extract is taken from a speech delivered in 1891 by a reverend in London during the height of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so this is where your history comes into play. It's an older text. Technology didn't exist like it does now. Okay, so it says, I fear that we are stumbling blindly into an age where man is ruled not by faith or conscience, but by machines and mechanical ambition. No longer does the laborer till the field with pride. He is replaced. Tilled means to like work hard. Cast aside by engines of cold iron. Letters once carried with care and zeal, and sealed, with thoughts of how hastily transmitted by wire, robbing us of the virtue of reflection. It is said that we must keep up with the times, yet I ask at all costs. At what cost? So sorry, reading this badly today. I ask at what cost? When young boys trade books for buttons and steam, the factories rise where the forest stood. And see not progress but loss. The pace of this change is not only unnatural but dangerous. What is gained in speed, I dare say we lose in soul. So I do apologize, that was a bit of a rough reading. But in this extract, we've got this gentleman who's basically going against technology. He's afraid of technology. He's saying that it's the rise of the machines. He's panicked by technology. He doesn't like the way that things are going. So for my adjectives, I've chosen fearful because he's afraid of how technology is progressing. Denouncing. So when you denounce something like you publicly, you reject it, you stand against it. So he's denouncing it. He's making it known that he's not for it. And then I've caught morality as well because he's afraid that we are losing our moral center. We're losing our souls. And then my sentence, I've said that the speaker expresses a deep concern for the rise of machines and the fear that it may take over and corrupt society. Okay, so those are the things that I've decided with regards to this. So What do both sources have in common? Both sources have in common this idea about machines, about communication, and about technology. Source A looks at it in a positive way, whereas source B doesn't look at it in a favorable way. So when you're reading your extracts, you need to identify what do they have in common and identify how does each source feel about it. So, like I said, both texts explore how advancements in technology influence the way people live, work, and connect with each other. Okay, so even though the tone and time period are different, the subject is shared. Okay, so they're both exploring the impact of technology and the progress within society. So, when we're thinking about the common theme, you need to think about, ask yourself, how does the writer feel about the changes that they're describing? Are they excited? They're nervous? Are they angry? And then you break it down like we did. Source A sounds hopeful and inspired. The writer is embracing the digital age, whereas source B is cautious and even fearful. The speaker is mourning the loss of the traditional values. So this idea that sending letters, which would be a personal touch, has now been replaced. Okay, so again, you might say that source A celebrates technologies and views it as a force of progress, whereas source B, on the other hand, warns about the dangers on relying too heavily on machines and losing that kind of human connection. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Um, Thank you for watching episode 1, and I look forward to seeing you for the next episode. Remember to follow on TikTok, Instagram, and subscribe. Bye.